Good day, children. I am glad to meet you today. I am teacher Dominga. I will be guiding you for our lesson on drafting patterns for a household linen. At the end of this module, you are expected to follow the steps in drafting pattern and know the safety precautions in drafting pattern. Let's go to what I know. Here is the direction. Read and analyze each statement carefully, then circle the letter of the correct answer on your module. Number 1. What manual pattern drafting technique is the easiest and simplest to do? A. Drawing. B. Rub-off technique. C. Shading. And D. Tracing. Number 2. What do we call the template from which the parts of a garment are traced onto fabric before being cut out and assembled? A. Fabric. B. Paper. C. Pattern. And D. Scale. For numbers 3 to 10, answer on your module on page 4 to 5. Pause the video while answering, then press play if you are done. Check your answers honestly. Here are the key answers. Number 1, C. 2, B. 3, A. 4, E. 5, C. 6, D. 7, C. 8, D. 9, A. And 10, B. Good job for those who got 8 to 10. But for those who got lower than 8, do not worry. We'll be learning more on draft pattern on household linen. Take a look at the scrambled letters. What word can you form from these letters? Letter N, E, P, P, A, P, R. Were you able to form the word pattern? What do you understand about this word? Where and how do you use pattern? Get an old newspaper. Imagine that the newspaper you are holding is a fabric and that you are going to make a table cover. How will you do it? Let's move on to what is it? Drafting pattern of household linens is as important as drafting patterns for clothing. They are pieces of paper patterns that when placed together will form a replica of an actual product. They are traced on the fabric for craft material before cutting to desired parts. Pattern is the template from which the parts of a garment are traced onto fabric before being cut out and assembled. Template is a gauge or pattern used as a guide to the form or shape of A's being made. Steps in pattern making. Number 1. Start with a sketch, drawing, or a photographic image of a linen product or clothing scaled into desired size you want. Number 2. Using the correct measurements, scale the sketch or drawing on the pattern paper The lines and curves determine how the article or clothing is broken down into sections. Number 3. Cut the pattern paper to achieve the actual shape and size of the different parts of the product. We call these pattern pieces templates that can be used in mass production. Number 4. Pattern can be modified on the original template to achieve the necessary size you want. You can make it smaller or bigger by just decreasing or increasing the scale. Number 5. Lay down the fabric flat on the table and position the different pattern pieces. You have to take note of the grain line or design of the cloth. Number 6. Pin the pattern on the cloth and start tracing. 7. Mark the needed allowance for sewing. 8. Cut the fabric on the lines for allowance. And 9. Sew pieces together to form the shape or design wanted. Here are the manual pattern and drafting techniques. Number 1. Tracing is the easiest and simplest pattern drafting technique for garments or products with little or no shipping. Just place garment or household linen on a piece of paper and trace around. Do not forget to add seam allowance before cutting your fabric. Number 2. Rub-off technique. Can either be done on paper or fabric. Layer a piece of paper over a piece of cardboard and place the garment or household linen on top. Place pins around the outline of the garment to mark darts or small holes. Remove the pins and connect the perforated markings. Finally, cut the pattern pieces and check for accuracy. Lay down cut pattern pieces on top of original linen. Safety precautions in drafting pattern. Number 1. Ensure that your working table is at a good level, not too high, not too low. Number 2. Keep your table free from sharp objects. Number 3. Be sure that the light should fall on the working surface from the left side or from the front. Number 4. Do not hold the scissors with sharp sides up and do not use them when the central fastener is weakened. Number 5. In working closely, observe the direction of cutting. Do not cut in motion. And number 6. Avoid drinking and eating while drafting pattern. Before the advent of computers, all pattern drafting are done by hand. Today's technology has made pattern drafting easier, whether for personal or commercial purposes. There are software or tools that can be used and are available in the market or online, whichever is most convenient for you. Unlike traditional pattern drafting, computerized programs allow users to input raw measurements, create patterns, and print and cut actual pattern templates. Sequence the following steps in pattern making in your module. Number them from 1 to 5. Pause the video while answering, then press play if you are done. Answer letter C to E on your module. Here are the key answers. Letter A, 3. B, 5. C, 1. D, 4. And E, 2. Here's the direction. True or false? Write true if the statement states safety precaution to observe and do while drafting pattern, and false if it's not. Number 1. The working table should be at level with your shoulder.
Number 2. Hold the scissors with sharp sides down. Be sure that the central fastener is fastened or tightened.
Pause the video while answering, then press play if you are done.
From 3 to 5, answer it on your module on page 8. Here are the key answers. Number 1, false. 2, true. 3, true. 4, true. And 5, false. Get a newspaper or manila paper and make a pattern for a hand towel. Be sure to include this pattern in your module to be returned. Write your name at the back of the pattern. Refer to the rubrics below as your guide in drafting the pattern. Here are the steps in doing the pattern. Number 1. On a pattern paper, draw a rectangle measuring 15 inches wide and 25 inches long. Number 2. Add 5/8 inch allowance on all sides of the pattern. Number 3. Cut the pattern paper. Number 4. Indicate at the back of your pattern your name, the time you started and the time you finished. Here are the rubrics for drafting pattern. You can read it carefully. Answer the following questions in What I Have Learned. Here's the direction. Answer the following questions in your module on page 10. Number 1. What are the different patterns in drafting pattern? Number 2. What are the safety precautions you should observe when drafting pattern? Number 3. Draw a pattern of your hand towel. Do the activity in What I Can Do. If you were to prepare your own pattern for a household linen, what would it be? And why did you choose that particular household linen? Prepare your pattern for it. Have you ever tried sewing? What are the things that you sew? Do you find it enjoyable? Do we benefit from sewing? Let's move on to the post-assessment. Do your best in answering the following. From number 1 to 4, sequence the following steps in drafting pattern from A to D. Number 1. Using the correct measurements, scale the sketch or drawing on the pattern paper. The lines and curves determine how the article or clothing is broken down into sections. Number 2. Pattern can be modified on the original template to achieve the necessary size you want. You can make it smaller or bigger by just decreasing or increasing the scale. Number 3. Lay down fabric flat on the table and position the different pattern pieces. You have to take note of the grain line or design of the cloth. Number 4. Mark the needed allowance of sewing. For numbers 5 to 10, answer it in your module on pages 16 to 17. Here are the answer key. Number 1, A. 2, B. 3, C. 4, D. 5, C. 6B, 7D, 8E, 9D, and 10B. For your additional activity, get a newspaper or manila paper and make a pattern for handkerchief. Be sure to include this pattern in your module to be returned. Write your name at the back of the pattern. Refer to the rubrics below as your guide in drafting the pattern. Here are the steps. Number 1. On a pattern paper, draw a square measuring 15 inches wide and 15 inches long. Number 2. Add 1/2 inch allowance on all sides of the pattern. Number 3. Cut the pattern paper. And number 4. Indicate at the back of your pattern your name, the time you started, and the time you finished.
That's all. Bye!